Last weekend, I had the privilege to host Monsignor Ed Mullimans for 3 nights. Many of you I know had a chance to either check in with him, stop downstairs for the socials, or at least see him. And for me, it was a great gift to have that time with my mentor, my teacher, and my friend. You know, running a cathedral is different than running most churches. There are different needs, different requirements. The buildings look differently, and the upkeep alone has different challenges. And so to be able to have that time to talk with somebody who'd been in the trenches for 20 years as rector here and 36 years in the city, he understood the place, and every night we would swap stories and tell tales, and the more I would listen to his stories when he was at the helm, the more I realized it was just a series of one obstacle, one challenge, one difficulty after another. It really put things in perspective. And then he wanted to know about what's going on now and what are we doing and where are things happening. And the more we talked, the more it just came to light that, okay, it's part of the landscape to have the challenges and obstacles that you face. Because in the end, Father Ed said something to me. He said, you know, God is so good. And it was a privilege to be present to how God was working through great people all those years in the face of difficulty. And I sat with that, and I thought about that a lot this week in preparation for these readings. Because in the first reading, and in the gospel, and in the second reading, we hear how God chooses people to do hard things. God chooses them and then gives them the power to make it happen. Take Amos. This guy's a shepherd. He takes care of sycamore trees in the off-season. And God says to him, leave the trees, leave the sheep, go preach a message. And by the way, no one wants to hear it. Go preach a message. And when they give him grief and say, get out of here, he says, hey, God sent me. You're going to hear it. And then you fast forward to the apostles. They've been spending time with Jesus. And then he says, okay, I want you guys. And remember, these guys would not have made the top 10 list of an HR firm's recruitment for administration. This raggle-taggle bunch, Jesus takes and forms and says, I want you to go out there, preach, drive out demons, and heal. And I gotta believe they all looked at each other and said, did he say what I think he said? Are you talking? Okay, we're gonna do it. And they did. They did something hard, chosen by God, empowered by God to do something amazing. And then we hear in the second reading, God chooses us. God chooses us. Now, before we get all excited about that, remember, God chooses people to do something hard, something difficult, something challenging. So yes, it's great news that God chooses us. Gulp. Now it's time to put it into practice. To do that, I'd like to submit 3 things for your consideration today. They are attitude, effort, and staying close to Christ. Attitude is the first. If life is difficult and has challenges and obstacles, and that's part of the deal, then our attitude has to be oriented to face challenge head on, to deal with the obstacles and difficulties of life. I would love to be able to stand up here and say life will be easy, and we can all just kick back and relax because it's smooth sailing. Ain't gonna happen. All we gotta do is read the lives of the saints. All we gotta do is take a little stock in our own history to recognize that life is a succession of challenges to be surmounted. Yes, there are times when everything is smooth and calm, and boy, we better be thankful, because there will be new obstacles, new opportunities, new challenges, new difficulties, new things that are going to just throw us a curve. Do we have that inner attitude that helps us square our shoulders and deal with it head on? Not pretend, not run away, but engage the life before us with full power. That's our attitude towards the difficulties of life. But the second thing is effort. How much work do we throw into it? How much of our own guts and sweat do we put towards the work we produce? Amos did not do it halfway when he preached the message. He gave everything he had. The apostles did not go halfway to drive out the forces of darkness, to preach repentance, and to cure the sick. They gave their lives. And we can take a page out of their book when we figure out how do we put our effort into everything that God puts in front of us today. How do we bring our best? How do we bring our all? How do we bring our life so that God can work through our lives to touch the hearts of others? Our work, that's our part. Our effort, that's our will. To say, okay, Lord, you put me here. You chose me. I'm going to give it my best. Our attitude and our effort, that's on us. But the third thing is when we recognize we can't do it alone, we lean on Jesus Christ. Amos could do what he did because he knew God was with him. He knew God's power was going to speak through his words. The apostles could go forth and do the amazing things they did because Jesus not only chose them, but granted them his power, his grace, his authority to do those amazing things. And the lesson is clear. The closer we are to Christ, the more we lean on God in our times of need, the more open we are to receiving the help that we need to face whatever is before us today. That the closer we stay to Jesus, the more we trust and ask God for help, the more God gives that help to work through us to face what is before us. We put our best attitude towards the challenges of life. We give our best effort to what we do, knowing that God, who wants the best for us, will give us the grace and power we need. The Lord chooses us. May we be open today to say yes and allow his power working through us to face whatever is before us today. God help us. God bless us all.